It's all hands on deck for the presidential campaigns amid an unprecedented wave of mail-in voting and an election that's rapidly approaching. Our White House correspondent Jenn Pellegrino has this report.
Despite weeks to go until November 3rd, the election is arguably underway well in advance, as a record number of voters are likely to make their presidential selection by mail long before the polls actually open. But the Trump campaign is not missing any opportunities to reach voters, announcing this week a 50% increase in their ad spending. And Trump 2020 Communications Director Tim Murtaugh outlines the campaign's multi-pronged approach, unrivaled by their opponent.
What we're doing is we're tracking the early voting states. We know that more than half of the votes cast in this election are very likely to be cast well before Election Day. So that's been our strategy in advertising, is tracking the states as they come online. I mean, for an example, North Carolina voters have had ballots in their hands actually casting absentee by mail ballots since September 4th. So that's the way that we're tracking our television ads. But we're running really a comprehensive campaign. If you take a look at the president's travel schedule, really very aggressive. He's hitting all of the key battleground states. Just in the next 5 days, he'll be hitting Wisconsin, Minnesota, then North Carolina. We have a massive volunteer army, 2.1 million people volunteering for the president. And that's not just people who, check a box somewhere online and say, yeah, I'm willing to volunteer or tell me more. That's 2.1 million people who have actually engaged in volunteer activities.
Meanwhile, the Biden campaign is hoping their massive ad spend pays off.
He's pretty much running an air war. He's basing his entire campaign on how many TV ads he can buy. They're very proudly knocking on 0 doors. They actually brag about that. So they're not meeting voters face to face.
Murtaugh doesn't expect Joe Biden to offer the press or voters the same transparency and access seen by President Trump over the past 3.5 years.
I don't see any reason why his habits would change. I mean, he's been very protected to this point. If you look at the number of questions that the two men have answered from the press, the president outpaces Joe Biden by about 5 to 1. The president has answered more than 1,000 questions in just the last month or so. What we also see when Joe Biden does submit to media interviews, he gets these softball questions. I mean, they might as well ask him, what's your favorite color? But we also see him when he's doing these TV interviews where he clearly knows the questions in advance. He did one with NBC6 in Miami about 2 weeks ago, and the interviewer asked him a question about Venezuela. And Joe Biden actually said these words. He said, Venezuela top line messages. And then he continued on with his answer. That is quite obviously the title of a talking points sheet that his staff had loaded into the teleprompter for him. It's outrageous, and the mainstream media just doesn't even seem to care.
Looking towards the debates, President Trump tweeted last year that the Commission on Presidential Debates is stacked with, quote, Trump haters and never Trumpers. I asked Murtaugh if the Trump campaign is concerned that Joe Biden may be given questions in advance or allowed any kind of unfair advantage.
Well, I think we anticipate that the moderators won't necessarily be friendly to the president and will actually serve as an additional opponent standing there on stage. So it'll be at the very least 2 against 1 at all times. Joe Biden is an accomplished debater. He knows what he's doing, and he has the ability to turn it on when he absolutely has to. That's the Joe Biden that we anticipate seeing in those debates. And for the president, what the president's goal will be to expose Joe Biden for carrying the agenda of the radical left.
And the president will continue to spread that message as he continues a nonstop schedule of campaign events across the country.
I would tell OAN viewers to sit tight, because if you live in any one of a great number of battleground states, pretty sure that the president will be coming to a place near you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.